Hey, what's up, Scarred Ones? It's Johnny, and we are here with our next installment of our intensive care episodes. If you've been listening for a little while, you know that we started doing these in between our normal episodes to kind of keep some of the dialogue, behind-the-scenes stuff, and the promotional material off of the episodes, so you guys can just enjoy those straight, and not have to worry about that being recorded over the wonderful stories we've been bringing you guys lately. But on this one, I'm going to be going over a couple things, mainly in 2018, talking about our new Tuesday release schedule. After that, we're going to get into the Support is Crucial campaign that we talked about a little bit at the end of 17. But before I go too much further into that, I have one other topic, and that is my special guest. This is Miss Jessica McEvoy. You there?
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Johnny.
All right. So Jessica is been on our show for a while. She's done the voice of Lena, Ambrielle, and she's just a phenomenal person that works a lot with Sirenicide. And I thought it'd be cool to have her on this ICE episode instead of just doing the normal thing where it feels like I'm talking to myself. So
Thanks
Jessica,
for having me.
You're welcome. Introduce yourself, and I guess if for the people who don't know who you are, I guess let them know maybe where you're from, where they can find you.
All right. I'm Jessica McEvoy. I'm probably best known for being on the Nosleep podcast. You can pretty much hear me there every week, usually screaming or crying or some mixture of the two. You can follow me on Twitter. That's usually where I spend most of my time talking about all the things I do. It's at JN McEvoy. And if you're interested in any audiobooks I do, they're available at audible.com or on iTunes. Just look up my name.
All right. That seems to be, I've noticed that a lot of narrators. Audible's got such a crazy name that does relate so much to audio. Because, I hear that constantly. Like, it seems like people go, Audible. Why did they name it that? But, so Jessica, again, like I said earlier, she has just been phenomenal as this character, Lena, that was developed as just in the beginning. And again, we're going to be going into a lot of spoiler stuff on this. If we're going to get into some really deep spoiler territory, I'll try to say something. But if you're completely somehow clicked on this and you've gotten this far and you've only listened to a few episodes of Sirenicide, you might want to go ahead and, wait before you click on this, because we're going to be talking about some developments for a character that changed massively from season 1 to season 2 and in amongst the rest of this conversation, and there might be some other story points dropped, and I don't want to spoil any of that for you because I can't stand it if somebody does that to me on something else, so I don't want to be the culprit of it. But so Lena, if you're still here, you don't care about spoilers. Lena was in season 1, she was an amazing character that just came across as some girl that got picked up by one of these horrible people in Sirenicide and basically avoided a horrible fate by having something even worse inflicted to her, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it's so much more for what you've done for our show than just this very complex character. It seems a lot of people might not know, but you're a big helper for us behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, I started maybe season 2. You asked me if I wanted to start helping edit the scripts and get them ready to send out to the other voice actors.
Yes. So, and it's been immensely helpful. I mean, those for you guys that get to hear our audio performances and things like that might not know that most of everybody that you hear acting on the show is the writers as well. There's 4 core writers in the show, myself, my wife, and the guy who plays Eddie Vile. He's Dustin. He does a lot of our writing, and as well as Joe does a lot of our writing too. And it's just been us all. We've never had any experience doing this kind of stuff like that, so I kind of reached out to Jessica on a few of my scripts, going, "Hey, when you're seeing something and you're reading it as a voice actor, and you're like, oh, that's." Do you ever just get the urge to go in and kind of edit it? And when I got her dialogue back, I was noticed that I was surprised that yes, that does that's probably something that she might be able to help with. So She did a few of, I believe, the finales for season 2, and then started into all of our mini episodes that we've had between season 2 and 3. She's currently already editing season 3, and
Ooh, season 3.
you find a way to take all of the garbage that is mainly my writing and make it sound like, wow, this person isn't just a bumbling idiot. I mean, he sure sounds like one right now, but that guy writes this stuff. Yeah, but it goes through the Jessica filter.
No, give yourself some credit. I mostly just like fix some punctuation or grammatical issues. I'm not like, oh, this whole line, it needs to go. This whole section, gone. Do it again. Start over.
But then instead of me saying, hey, what's up, scarred ones, you might be like, I think you just put, hey, what's up, scared ones? There's 2 R's. So she does help a lot. And she's been, again, so instrumental into the developing and the growing of our show, and I can't thank you enough. But speaking of audio and editing and recording and getting to read massive amounts of scripts in front of your face while you record, what have you been up to lately?
I just finished a new audiobook, which I'm super stoked about. It's probably one of my favorite books that I've ever gotten to turn into audio form. It's The Salvation State by Marcus Demanda. And if you're familiar with the Nosleep podcast at all, the name Marcus Demanda should probably be a little bit familiar to you.
Yes. Well, I got the chance the other day. I saw that you had shared some links on Twitter, and just hectic and busy. You see so much stuff in our feeds day to day. Luckily, you sent me all 3 of them, and I got to review them, and I'm really stoked for it. It sounds like a very good performance, and of course it's Marcus's writing, so it's going to be amazing there. So if you guys have not got that on your to-do list for the upcoming year, definitely keep your eye out for that. I actually just finished Dawn's Hill as well, which is a book you did last year, correct?
Yeah. Oh gosh, was it last? I guess it's 2018 now. So, yes. Was it 2017? It must have been.
But
yes,
it was amazing. Of course, no spoilers for this novel, but it's a really cool mystery mixed in with a lot of horror elements, suspense, great character building and world building. And your performance, again, I promise I'm not just going to keep praising you the whole show. But
go on.
It was amazing. It was so
you.
cool because, I mean, I've gotten to hear the wonderful, or gotten to feel the wonderful feeling of you bringing one of my characters to life. And I've heard you for years now on the Nosleep podcast, but I guess that was my first time. I listened to Unreal City a few years back, and I guess you didn't play a Russian. Somebody does a Russian act. You did?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unreal City was fun because she's like, "Can you do a Russian accent?" I'm like, "No, but I'll try." It was the dude in the library.
Oh, okay.
I think I did so many takes, and I listened to so many YouTube videos, and I was like, I don't know if I can sound like a middle-aged Russian, because like every time someone writes a Russian man, and it's always a man, they're always like, he has a deep, full voice, and he talk, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like in my early 20s. I'm a woman, so yep, this should be super easy. Awesome, I got it.
Well, the Russian gentleman you did in Dawn's Hill mixed with these older ladies who are into, I guess, without spoiling anything, they're into hanging out with other older ladies and talking about not book club things, but maybe in the back of a bookshop or the upstairs of a bookshop. You do this wonderful mix of like a gypsy accent, and then you're this guy that's Russian, and then you'll reflect on being a child, and we'll hear a very familiar like child voice that you've done on No Sleep a few times. It was such a wonderful book to see this evolution of your performances that I've heard over the past years and all these different projects, but just to feel like it was all comprised into just one book here. So I can't say enough great things about it. So if, again, you haven't checked out Dawn's Hill, that's out now. You don't have to wait. You can actually just pause this, go download it, maybe listen to the whole thing, and then come back and finish the interview. If that's
Just
what
listen
you want
to the 8-hour, 9-hour audiobook and then come back and finish this once you've forgotten everything entirely. It's great.
So other than audiobooks, there's also a certain set of live events coming up in your future, right?
Oh, yes. I'm going on tour again in like less than 2 months. Oh my gosh. It's like 7 weeks away.
Yeah. So you're going to be going on tour with what's a little show that you're known that's
Oh, it's really obscure. The Nosleep podcast, or is it the Don't Sleep? The I Can't Sleep podcast. It's for insomniacs, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess talk about maybe some enjoyment of touring, because I mean, I used to be, a full-time basically musician. Well, I should still stay part-time because I had a full-time day job, but all my extracurriculars report into being a musician of a metal band. And like we all had inspiring tours to go from just a local base to a regional base. And then we kind of capped off at regional base and never got to do a national tour, which is what you guys did last year, like right out of the box. So
Yeah.
tell me about how that goes.
Oh, it was. I mean, because a lot of the time, I think when people hear the voice actors and any sort of medium that, they can just listen to, the assumption is like, that's their job and that's what they do and that's what they're known for. But for pretty much everyone on tour, like, nobody really like, I was a yoga teacher. Like, everyone's like, oh, Jessica, your voice is so soothing. It's so nice. I could fall asleep to it. And I'm like, I scream for a living, actually. That's my other job. But so to go on tour and have people like come up and like be like super excited to meet you, and they're like because some people were like almost afraid to, they'd like look at us with tears in their eyes, and I'm like, no, you don't understand, I'm one of you. No, it's okay, like we're like just regular people, and just to be like a regular person who's never really experienced, I guess, having fans, or it's even weird to say having fans, It
is. I mean, it's such a strange experience. I mean, even on my like the lower regional level, like when people would come up and be like, "Hey, I got your CD. Can you sign it?" It's like, well, that's not going to make the value go up on it. It's still like in my head, still a CD. Or can we get a picture with you? Oh, and not just, can you get the whole band to come back over here? It's like, man, we're trying to load the gear in the truck. We want to go home. But, oh yeah, these people like what we do. You forget, you think, well, we're not Metallica, so,
Right. It's so crazy. And it's amazing because I've never been able to find a way to express how grateful I am for the people who support what I do and what we do, like on the podcast in general. And it's like, because every time someone comes up, I'm like, oh, thank you so much for listening. And I'm like, but I mean it. I mean, really, thank you so much for listening. And it just, you say it so many times, but I want it to mean something every time. Like, thank you for letting me do something so incredible and getting to have so much fun and go on tour across the country. Like, thank you.
Right. And it's such a cool environment too. I mean, I did not, and no one really knows what to expect on, you know what to do if you're going to go see a live band. But I remember us all super psyched. We bought the tickets last year. We've already bought our tickets for this year too. But we bought tickets last year, and it was, I think, 8 of us. And once we got there and we got in line, we started like live streaming and just having fun with everybody and talking about, we have a show too. It's called Sirenicide. Check it out. Jessica and Peter Lewis, they're on it. They're about to be on the stage in there. Are you guys ready? And in my head, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm about to see. And then when I got in there, it was just so cool. It was like, all you guys are so, you sit there and listen to a show like Nosleep or like our show Sirenicide, and you imagine, your imagination's so painted from all these things. You think, oh, if I'm going to see this live, is this going to take away from that? And it doesn't. You're actually getting to see the work and the effort that these narrators and these writers and these musicians put into this wonderful product, and it comes out to you. And you think, wow, that was really good. And then you get to meet everybody, and then you realize, oh wow, this is really why I'm here. It's not just to enjoy the art that they do for us all the time through my headphones live. It's the fact that I finally get to, hug and shake hands and meet, on Nosleep's side, like, it was so cool to meet Brandon Boone, and like this guy's like composed a ton of music I enjoy listening to, and and then see these actors and actresses, and it was a very rewarding experience. And if you haven't got a chance to see the Nosleep live and it's coming near your area, you definitely got to check it out for 2018. Again, we've already, I think we bought 8 tickets again, because pretty much everybody involved at the core of Sirenicide and significant others are all going to be there. So we're excited, and it was a wonderful experience last year, and I'm so glad that it worked out well enough that you guys have taken the dive to make it even bigger and better for this coming up year.
Yeah, no, it was great. You guys were like right in the front row, right?
Yeah, first one too. I was like, why couldn't we be the third or fourth date? Because I was like, this is gonna be the first time walking out, and like, here we all are. Like, here's the whole city of Houston.
Man. I think my hands were shaking, because I mean, I've done public speaking and stuff before, and I've been on stage before, and I'm not really afraid of public speaking, but there's just like that feeling beforehand, like there's like so many people out there and they're all looking at you, like, and most people had no idea what we looked like before the tour.
Yeah, or what to expect. I mean, again, you go to a play or you go to a concert or a mystery theater, you know what you're going to get. But if you've been listening to a podcast, you're like, what are they? Are they going to cut people up when they get over there? They're going to like pop out of the bushes and do like a jump scare thing? Because I mean, I've listened to a lot of these Nosleep stories, and they go from one spectrum of horror to the other really quick. But it was, I mean, I didn't realize how much like David was like such a method actor. Like, he kept picking his cell phone up when he was talking on the phone, like. That was
David All?
Yeah, I was like, wow, I wonder if he does that when he's in the booth recording like the Nosleep story, like hello.
David Alt is incredible because he's a stage actor. He does that. He's an astrophysicist. He's a cellist. He has like he does ghost tours. He's one of the coolest people you're ever going to meet, and he's one of the nicest people you're ever going to meet. And he's an incredible actor on stage, and I feel like I learned so much about acting that I could take back with me to just recording on my own after watching him, because he made the script so much his own, and he's a total joy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and it was. I mean, it felt like I was sitting in the audience just watching, hours and hours of or years and years and years of just seasoned veterans on stage. You would not know that, hey, some of these people, including yourself, aren't even old enough to be veterans up there, but you could not tell it. Y'all are masters at your craft, and it really shows. So I guess let's move on to some exclusive questions for me, because I feel like I've listened to a couple of your interviews in the past, and I wanted to. I know we have a lot of crossover audience, people that have probably heard your podcasting couch interview and a few of your other interviews, and I just didn't want to ask the same questions about how you become a voice actor, how'd you get started. So how about, what is your favorite book?
Well, I believe I've told you before that I am a huge Neil Gaiman fangirl. I think I've read almost all of his fiction except for maybe like some of the kids' stories, and that's just because I haven't had any chance to get the kids' stories. Yeah, but so I love like Neverwhere, American Gods, Ocean at the End of the Lane. I just got the complete Sandman comic collection for Christmas, so I'm pretty excited about that.
That's awesome.
Have you ever read the Sandman comics?
I have not.
Okay, you're going to need to do that for me, Johnny.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me put this on my to-do. All right, Sandman comics, got it. It's gonna. Hopefully, it won't get over there with my my ever-growing movie list. I got a few people I work with at my day job, and they're like, "Have you seen this movie?" Not yet. And I got this little note on my phone. I open it up, I put the movie on there, and I swear there's like 36 titles on there now. I'm like, I'm never gonna see all these.
I'm the same way with books. I have this wish list on Amazon that's just like this list of books that I'm like, I'll read it one day. Meanwhile, I have like 20 books on my shelf that I'm like, next. It's you next. Definitely you next.
The way I look at it is, people always go, I don't know what I'm going to do when I retire. I'm like, I'm going to have like 3,000 shrink wrap video games, a movie list that's got like 7,000 titles on it, and like, no, my luck, maybe a few hundred books that I need to read. But that'll be my retirement. Now, speaking of books, I know I've seen recently you've been doing some promo for a Nosleep book club, correct?
Yeah, I started a No Sleep podcast book club, which you don't have to listen to the podcast, or I mean, you might want to listen to the podcast, but it's mostly the goal is to read books that authors that have been featured on the show have written, or just other books like horror, and like we read It by Stephen King and House of Leaves and stuff like that.
Wow. Now I've joined. I joined, I think, on both forums because one's on Facebook and the other one's on Goodreads, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I think on Goodreads, I'm not as familiar with it as you might be, but you can actually even log what you're reading, and that way you can always kind of, because I know sometimes people are like, how many books have you read this year? Or, have you read this whole series? And I'm sitting there going, I don't know. And this one's like, there's different places where you can log all that and, be able and kind of, it's like an actual fun thing to do. And I believe that's an environment for Goodreads. Obviously, I'm not plugging them because I have no really that well. I created the account when you sent the link out.
This podcast sponsored by Goodreads.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, it's really cool. Just the idea of being able to bring together, fans from just the podcasting world into this whole other avenue of dialogue and socializing and enjoying great works of, all sorts of different authors. I mean, there's a ton of cool writers on the No Sleep podcast, as well as, great ones like Stephen King. So I'm sure that's going to be a really fun place. If it seems like it would interest you, if you're listening, I would definitely check it out.
Yeah, and also anyone who's interested in writing short horror stories or possibly getting a story on the show. We recently started doing monthly writing challenges. And now that No Sleep Podcast is looking for a lot of new submissions and stuff, if you ever wanted to get your work featured and put into audio format, you can always join the No Sleep Podcast book club on either Goodreads or the Facebook group and maybe get your story on the show.
Nice. Very nice. And I mean, that's one of the coolest things that you could ever have. If you're an aspiring writer out there, submit your, to that, because then you're going to have great voice actors and actresses like Jessica bring that to life. And there is no greater feeling, again, than having something you've tirelessly poured effort into, wondering, did she say that line or did I write that line the right way? And then when you hear the way she said it, you're like, oh, yes, that's such a cooler line of dialogue than I ever could have thought. Quick segue away from the fun questions for a second. It's still one of those times that I will cherish, like, till the end of my writing days, of getting 1963, which is season 1, episode 3. Spoilers, maybe. And playing it, just the raw file. No, I didn't have the script in front of me. I was at work. I was typing up some order form or something, and I had my headphones in. And I was about 3 minutes into the take, and I had to step away from my computer. I walked out. There's this like massive ramp that leads up to our dealership. It's like a big cement ramp, and I walked down. I almost stumbled because I was still listening, and I had tears in my eyes, just like, I cannot believe this is Lena. Like, this is her. I mean, it's and it was something I was so worried about. And then to take it to the next level, we open with season 2, episode 1, Right Through the Heart. And you find this whole new transformation of this character that no one knew about. I mean,
I definitely didn't see it coming.
Well, and we didn't. I mean, I was sitting back when we were sitting in the writer's room of season 2 and telling everybody, what if we did like a Bonnie and Clyde modern story, only instead of like robbers, I mean, it's a killing spree. And we're all just kind of like, and what if Clyde in this circumstance is Eddie? That's who did it to her. I know, but what if, like he goes to her doorstep and they go on this road trip, and just imagine that. And we all sat back, like, okay, well, if, we want to do it, let's try it. And we did, and we put the script together, and I worked hours on, like, bringing that character. I was doing so many character studies of things. I watched Cinderella. I think like 3 or 4 times because I wanted that while I was writing it. Oh, it'd be so wondrous if I could be at the ball. And I just wanted to make sure that that's the way this woman felt about this invigoration of killing. And for those who haven't noticed yet in our story, you know, when someone has this operation done to them in our line of fiction, it makes them very docile and dismal and have no appetite, no taste for life, no taste for food, anything, period. They're just breathing and going through day to day. But when they get their adrenaline level up, you know, like I figure everybody in Sirenicide should just be professional skydivers or something because then they'd love life. But, you know, killing and hunting, it gets their adrenaline level up. And you just brought that to life in that Lena character. And just that, I say short episode, it's still, I think, our longest episode to date. It's like a 51-minute episode. But it just, such a wonderful story. And you go through so many moods in it, like from scared to psycho to crazy. And then that performance to this day of you that you gave for this character where she's just in that hotel room, everything's been
screaming.
Just been ripped from her. Well, I mean, the screaming was phenomenal, but I'm talking more about when she's just like clamoring, grabs her diary and just like, they're all gone. They left me. I was like, oh my God. I don't know whether to feel bad for this person or, you know, because I mean, she's a horrible individual. But I'm like, I wrote this. I should know what I wanted out of the character. But that just shows you like the difference of somebody bringing something to text that you never would have ever guessed in a million years. Because someone could have read that script and they're going to read that character 400 different ways. But once they hear it in the show, I mean, that's Jessica McEvoy is Lena Klein. So it's
it was weird because when you first asked me to do Lena, you're like, can you do an old lady? And I'm like, you sure you don't want like Erica or like Nicole or something to do like an old lady voice? Because I don't have much experience with old lady voices. And so I was pretty nervous to, you know, make it sound somewhat authentic and not just sound like a caricature of it, like an older woman. So I was like, oh, good. There's also some younger bits here so I can just sound like me.
And it worked out, and it harpens back up to Dawn's Hill. When I was listening to that, there was one of these characters, like Lily, I think her name was, or something, and she's being helped down some stairs, and she's like, "Oh, thank you," and like I think the like actual dialogue line was, "Oh, thank you," and all I could think was, "Oh, thank you, Maddie, for picking that up for me." Like when you're talking to Matthew Finnis, I was like, "Wow, that's so funny."
Well, if it sounds familiar, that's because having done so much with Lena, that's kind of my go-to old lady voice now, that I got enough practice in with that voice that I'm now decently comfortable with it, that I was like, all right, turn on the old lady voice. Let's be Lena, but not crazy.
Man, I here recently at Thanksgiving, my mom came over, and she's not as inept at, streaming all this stuff on her computers. I mean, I've met people my age that aren't inept at that either. Like, so usually my niece will help set up to where she can listen to the podcast, but she hadn't heard The Morning Dove yet, which is the mini episode you just did for us in our off season. And she was just laughing and like, oh, I've had that happen to me so many times, like calling them. They say they're going to be here at this time and then they're not. And I was like, here's this little short story I just wrote. I thought it'd be funny to give the listeners like a window into Lena's, life before Matt and before the events of 1963 and Right Through the Heart. And she was just like, this is probably my favorite episode. I just love that girl that you just get to do the voice of this lady.
Tell your mom thank you for me.
But because it's so relatable. I mean, everybody's been through that. But again, it's just one of those things like, yeah, you can read that text and go, oh, yeah, I've had that happen to me. But then hearing somebody's aggravation with it just really brings it to life. And I guess a little treat for the people that are listening to this right now. I'm actually working on a story that's going to be involving Lena for season 3. So that's going to be, I think, very entertaining. And we just finished up yesterday the music for season 3's theme song, because we change our theme song every season. And we always
like an anime. Got you.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
The Sirenicide anime.
Right.
I would watch it.
So our I would love that. That'd be awesome. But just my inspiration actually came from The Wire, believe it or not. I watched that, years ago on HBO, and I thought it was so cool that like every year their opening theme song was new, and it was somebody literally took like the elements of the lyrics and just changed them around. Like it's more hip hop this time, it's more soul and R&B this time, it's more like indie rock on this season. So I definitely, and then I noticed that once I started getting into podcasting, I was like, oh my God, Nosleep does this too. Awesome. Maybe this is just a podcast thing. It doesn't seem that way. It seems like it's a few people that do it because it takes work. I mean, it'd be easy for us to just write one theme song and slap that together and use that, for the next 5 or 6 seasons. But this one we were going through today, and we lined out all the lines for the dialogue that are going to be played through the theme like we always have. And yeah, she made it in there because I was like, she's got to be in there. He's like, why? I was like, well, she's in season 1 going, please let me go. And then she's in season 2's, like not being like that at all. She's just being all lovey-dovey, like he was perfect or, whatever said. I can't remember. I'm skipping off my mind right now. But I was like, so we've never had her in the theme song be like Lena, like crazy Lena. I was like, so I think I might be able to do that. So again, that's all in the works right now. So everybody will, I'm sure, hopefully enjoy our step up on our production for the music in our upcoming season. But let's get back to me, some exclusive questions that I want answers to, and I'm sure everybody listening does too. What is your favorite color, and what is something that you own that proves it's your favorite color?
Asking the hard questions, man. Okay. Honestly, it usually depends on my mood, but I own like for the longest time, like 90% of like the shirts I owned were gray, like some variation of a gray striped sweater. I've always liked gray. It kind of reminds me of rain, and living in the desert, rain isn't something to grumble about. It's like, oh my God, it's raining.
Now, that's a good one. I guess my problem, like my son came up to me a few years back, and I asked him the same question, and he always asks, okay, what's your favorite color now? Because it was green, then it was yellow, and he's like, it's black. And you just said yours was gray. And I was like, all I can hear is my 8th grade art teacher going, now, John, black, gray, and white, these are absences of colors or shades,
All right.
Yeah.
Settle
colors
down,
or blah, blah,
teacher.
blah. I'm like, oh. So, but I always tell people like black is my favorite shade and red is my favorite color. And I quote.
Yeah, you sure do love red.
Yeah, I like red just a little bit. I'm in our little recording box right now, and it is just like drenched in red and black. So I don't know. It might be just a little bit my favorite color. So if you could visit any place on the entire globe, what would it be and why?
All right. See, that's rough because I plan to like go everywhere at some point, but I mean, one place at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've always, maybe not always, but for the past, I don't know, maybe like a decade or so, Japan has definitely been up there. Just looks like a beautiful country, lots of interesting things to do, such an interesting culture, and the food looks so good, and I just like want to eat all of it. So I might just go and be like, all right, just plan out the restaurants, plan the day around like the food, and go to all the convenience stores and just get like enormously fat.
Nice. Very nice. I mean, very original too. It seems like, I mean, everybody that I've talked to that's gone, they're like, oh, they're so like welcoming. Like there'll be like a karaoke bar or something open, and they'll just like, if you're just walking around the street, especially if you're by yourself, like come in here, like just party with us and, like enjoy life. It's like, man, that doesn't happen on a lot of streets around where I'm at. It's like, oh man, these streets, I'm by myself, get to my car. So, I guess that is a good question. Mine has still been, I think, for years now, especially since it started in Star Wars. I think I wanted forever just to go to Stockholm, Sweden, or Gothenburg, Sweden, just because I'm a huge Swedish metal fan, and I just want to visit some of the historical venues. And then Force Awakens came out, and they had that wonderful island at the end, Skellig Michael, and Ireland, and I was just like, all right, that's it. If I could just, if someone's like, here's a little bit of money and a plane ticket, you only go one place in the world. I'm like, well, I'm going to need a helicopter ticket too, because apparently you can only take up to 800 pounds of equipment on this island at once. I learned from the behind the scenes nerddom that is Star Wars. But
Oh wow.
it's such a beautiful place though. And when I just got through seeing The Last Jedi, and they have a scene on that island again, and it's just,
Don't
I'm not
spoil
spoiling.
anything. I
Never.
still haven't seen it.
All right. Well, this
Jonathan.
interview was really fun, and I'm gonna have to cut it off here. That is like blasphemy. No, I would. There's a few people, a few hardcore Star Wars fans I know that are due to scheduling and jobs and all that, still haven't been able to get to it yet. I mean, I've only seen it 4, already planned my 5th time, but hey, some of us are.
Well, I made time within my busy schedule 5 times, so it's clearly fake fans over here. But whatever.
But yeah, no spoilers at all. It's just it's an amazing. I mean, it's kind of in the trailer, but it's just a wonderful island, and you only get to see it a little bit in The Force Awakens at the very end, and in this movie, you see a lot more of it. And it's just like, oh, I just want to go there. I just want to live there. I know none of those little digital things running around right there are real, but I don't care. I just want to see this place.
You can believe, yeah, no, Sweden and Ireland's definitely on the list for me because I'm Swedish and Irish.
Well, there you go.
So go back to the homeland. And weird fact, like for the longest time for the Nosleep podcast, for like listener numbers, it was America was the largest group of listeners. I mean, it's a huge country and lots of people, and we speak English. But the second highest number, like country, was Sweden.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, I was like, we got a lot of Swedish listeners. That's
really
the
cool.
horror scene's pretty big. Yeah, right? So I was like, I could go to Sweden. I could meet some Swedish fans. They could teach me about Swedish food. I like to eat. Can you tell?
Right. Well, I know your tag Snackavoy. I've seen the tweets.
Yeah, that was Nicole. Nicole dubbed me Snackavoy. I think I was just shoveling food in my mouth, and she's like, "Oh, Jessica Snackavoy," and I was like, "That's perfect." And so everyone from the tour group, and it's spread since then,
just stuck.
Pretty much just calls me Snacks, not Jessica, not McEvoy. Just like, "Oh, Snacks, where'd Snacks go?" Probably eating or sleeping.
All right, kind of on the same topic here as far as places. If you could visit any fictional place, what would it be?
Ooh, have you ever read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern?
I have not.
Okay,
Tell.
All right. So it's one of my favorite books, but not because there's like some romance elements that I'm not exactly super into. But she is amazing at describing imagery. And some of the reviews for the book, some people are like, she spends too long talking about stuff. And I'm like, excuse you? I loved her talking about stuff. But basically, it's set in this traveling circus, and the colors are all black, white, and red. So you might like that.
Oh, man.
But it's set in this world where like there's magic, but there's like rules to magic and stuff. And she describes each of like the different shows that go on in the tents, and it's just beautiful and really imaginative stuff. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to join a magic circus and travel around the world. That's all I've ever wanted. Please let me go.
That's awesome. That sounds really cool. It reminds me a lot, just the description of it. I mean, obviously it doesn't sound as horrid ridden as, but I used to like that show on HBO that was Carnival. And I know that was actually set in our world. It wasn't fictional, but it reminds me because it always had like that septa antiquity looking flair to it, like the color schemes that they chose for the actors and actresses to dress in, the way the wagons were, and I think it was set in Depression era Americana, so it seems like, oh, that'd be an awful place to be, but it always seemed like it felt so real, like, I don't know, but that, as you were describing that to me, that's what was popping in my head. So, yeah, I guess my next question is kind of something I ask people all the time on probably a daily basis, if not maybe an hourly basis, depending on if I'm in public or not. But on a scale of 10 out of 10, how is Star Wars still an 11?
I actually saw you ask Atticus that question.
I did. I tested it on him.
I think Star Wars is a neat series because it still remains relevant. I mean, a lot of things kind of get lost to nostalgia. And yeah, I think someone, because I didn't grow up watching this series. Like it was a little bit before my time. So the original movies don't have the same impact on me that they do from someone, say, like a little bit older, like from your generation. But I'd say the newer movies, because some people are always going to be like, oh, the new movies, it's not Star
Right.
Wars, or oh,
Yes.
the new movies, it's just too much of the same thing. I thought they were pretty incredible. And to me, it felt like it was the series growing up and becoming more aware of world events and sort of mirroring that. And I thought that was a really cool way to do it, set in like this fantasy, series.
Yes.
But
Definitely.
oh wait.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I like stopped recording for like 2 seconds and re-recording now. So hopefully you didn't just lose like a smidget of dialogue. Just cut the whole Star Wars.
Amazing conversation that everybody just missed about Star Wars. Oh, you should have heard it.
But yeah, I heard this really interesting fan thing. They were talking about Kylo Ren specifically. They were saying that they couldn't really do the Darth Vader thing again because Darth Vader was sort of like an allegory for Hitler. You have like this regime and they're trying to like wipe out entire civilizations and planets and stuff.
Right.
But then with Kylo Ren, you have this young guy, and he's kind of idolizing that, and it's sort of mirroring the sort of growing neo-Nazi things. You have these young men who are idolizing these past atrocities.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow, I didn't even make that connection, but it makes a lot of sense.
It's one of those series that you can literally pull any aspect of civilization, religion, politics, no matter what side of the coin you're on or where you come from or what background, no matter what. I mean, obviously they're called stormtroopers, so it's pretty obvious what Lucas was getting at in the beginning. It's definitely modeled after Hitler and Nazi Germany in the original trilogy, and then they just evolved that over time with story. But I know there was a massive backlash against the prequel trilogy, which is more of my generation's era. Like I was about 7 years old, and I had a bunch of action figures that I found that belonged to my brother, who is 5 years older than me. So he kind of caught the ass end of the Return of a Jedi, Empire Strikes Back kids. He was still kind of even little when that hit. And I was like, what are these? And like, what is this goldenrod looking thing? Like, and I was holding a C-3PO action figure, and I didn't know what it was. And they were all beat up where he'd played with them a lot. And he said I could have them. And I still have them. And I mean, I don't have all of them, but I have like the remnants of my old Star Wars toys still. And I remember it was a spring break. I can't remember the exact year. I was either 7 or 8, so somewhere's over there. It would have been like right around the 94 time frame, and I went with my parents to this place called Dynamite Video, which was like this mom and pop video cassette rental store, because our town was small. We didn't have Blockbusters or movie galleries or Hollywood videos or anything like that, and they had a deal that for a week you could rent all 3 Star Wars movies for $2. And I'd never seen them. So I went home, and this store had I didn't realize I was watching like the original VHS releases from the 80s, which evidently is a big deal, but I didn't know. As a kid, I didn't care. I just knew that I didn't like, normal daytime talk shows and soap opera TV. So I just, for like the week that I was basically, I was probably 9, so it was 94. I was a third grader.
I was 1.
Yeah. I sit there. I haven't turned 9 yet because it's spring break. My birthday's in the summer. So my mom had. There was a few hours of the day where she worked at just basically a small town. I was at home, nothing to do, and I literally watched these 3 movies over and over and over and over and over, and just digested something like I'd never seen before. And even as a young kid that at that age that was still into writing, it just started speaking to me on so many levels. I didn't know anything about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and all that kind of stuff then. Even though that's like source material for Star Wars, I didn't know anything about any of that. I just saw, hey man, here's this nobody from this nobody town, basically his nobody planet, which I could relate to. and now he's with all these cool new guys, and they're saving the girl. And wait, they're not saving the girl. The girl's saving them. This is so awesome. There's like a big walking dog that howls all the time. And I just really got into it. I started reading like what is now the Legends novels, and that's where you get into a lot of the Star Wars fans like you're talking about, because Star Wars fandom's so divided. Like, only the original expanded universe is canon to me, and all this new stuff doesn't count. Like, I don't feel that way at all. I'm just happy there'll be Star Wars like every other year until I die, if not every year. Because I went and saw my first ever movie in theaters was in 1999. I went and saw The Phantom Menace, and I just could not understand why the world was so angry about this film. I was just so, happy with it. And when Attack of the Clones came out, that was me and my current wife now. I just started like just two kids, literally kids, dating like, a 16-year-old and 15-year-old, like going to the movies and just like super excited at this amazing movie. And I'm getting to see, spoilers for Attack of the Clones, this guy that will become Darth Vader just like bask into his darkness and slaughter this family. I mean, these families, just because their people took his mother away from him. And this is the deepness of it. And I get out of this movie, and sure enough, all these critics are tearing apart. It's not Empire Strikes Back. It's not Jedi. And in my mind, I know it's going to give me a lot of haters, but I was just like, yeah, you're right. It's not. It's better. It's like, I'm actually seeing like what became this dark samurai cape-wearing respirator guy, like where he came from. And then Revenge of the Sith comes out, which is probably still my favorite Star Wars movie. And I get to see like the full transformation, the lost love, and it dramatically impacted like how I write, even for Sirenicide, and just how I enjoy stories, because it's not just about romance or world building. It's or the balance of good and evil. It's everything. It's literally every facet of like literary bliss mixed together, mystery. I mean, Attack of the Clones is essentially like a noir novel. I mean, it's Obi-Wan going around solving a mystery. Where did this dart come from? Let me go to this planet and find. I mean, it's like a Dick Tracy thing going on. It's just, it's an amazing movie. They all are. I mean, everyone's like, well, rank your favorites, like in a list. And it's always hard for me to do, because it's ever changing. Because one beauty about Star Wars, and not just the movies, but all their plethora of books, no matter every time you read or watch, you always find something. I didn't see that. Look at that. Did you notice that the last 80 times we watched it? I didn't. And so, yeah, that's why it's still 11 out of 10 out of 10.
In short.
In short. So,
in breath.
A song that takes you away from everything. What would be a song that just like lifts you up out of like the place either not that you don't want to be in, but like I need to escape? What is a song that speaks to you?
See, I usually, when I listen to music, I usually put on a full album. Like I don't have like playlists of songs, or like just like songs that I just like listen to just a song. I usually like, all right, like I'm in a music listening mood. I'm going to do this right. So I'll just put on a full album. And so for me, I have a lot of, again, it depends on my mood, but I usually like a lot of like really mellow stuff, or like some indie folk rock stuff, and like anything with a banjo I'm pretty cool with. But we've talked about it before. The National, one of my favorite albums of all time, is High Violet. And then if I had to pick a favorite song from that album, or in general, it would have to be Little Faith.
Nice. You're right. We have talked about it before, and it's one of those. It's actually on rotation right now, because I don't get to listen to albums in their entirety that often anymore because of time constraints. And we were coming back from New Year's Day, and it's like a 2-hour drive from where me and my wife, all our families are all from the same area, and we drove back all the way down through Houston. And I usually, every year, I listen to this album called Stormbirds by this band Evereve, because it was written in the 98, 99 era, back when people still wrote albums and not a bunch of singles clumbled together, like the whole album evolves. And this was the first time that actually took a back seat. I mean, it was still a 2-hour drive, so I still got to do it, but I actually listened to High Violet in its entirety, because I had not done that yet. I'd listened to it in its entirety, broken up between, let me pause this, I need to go to the copy machine, let me such and such, I need to put the daughter in the bathtub, and I'd not had a chance to actually enjoy it in its entirety, and it's an amazing album. And then I listened to Stormbirds again, and it's still an amazing album too. But yeah, I usually put song on there because there's a lot of people like, oh, I hear that song and it takes me to this place. But I totally have mad respect for being able to do that with an album. And thank you so much for showing those guys to me, because that has been, I'm trying to finally finish up with it so I can move on to their other works. Because I'm so entranced in that little saga it feels like from start to finish.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's really something to like taking the time to like listen to music, because so much time you just make it background noise, like it's something while you're driving or like you're working on something. So you just turn it on. And I've been trying to find more time in my life to just spend with music, just sitting down, listening. Like, is there like a music club? Like there are like book clubs where you like pick an album every month and like listen to it as a group and discuss it. Is that a thing yet?
I don't know, because I guess because I was a metal kid for so long, and it's hard for me because I grew up on so many types of music, and I love metal, but I get, as soon as I'm in a metal group of people that love music or love metal, and I say, yeah, also, did you guys hear the new Delta Machine album from Depeche Mode? The what? Oh, you're not hardcore enough to be with us. Or vice versa. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, my favorite country song was by Restless Heart, Bluest Eyes in Texas. I'm sorry, what? Not Cannibal Corpse? I'm sorry. I mean, I understand if you were a kid and you listened to Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and then evolved into what you're listening to now. It became very elitist, and I thought, well, it's just the metal kids. And then I learned after talking to, no, you're not listening to real country. And I was like, oh, no, that's just every genre of music and any type of specialist. Once you start narrowing down, like, I like books, great. I like music, great. And then when you start getting in these subgenres, it's really hard to find, because people are so passionate about music, because unlike a piece of text work, your mind opens that up to the interpretation. You actually spell out the way those sounds on the paper sound in your mind, the way those people's voices do. Where a song, that's how the song sounds. Listen to it. And then people interpret it. No, that's what the artist was going to when they wrote that. And harkening back to Depeche Mode, I remember there was an interview I watched a long time ago with David, he's the lead vocalist, but he's not the lead writer. And so many people all the time like, oh, are you going through some serious marital issues? Or, I feel the same way about, my love life. I think sometimes I settled down too young. I'm like, whoa, Martin wrote those, not me. I'm just singing them. You need to talk to him about the divorce thing, man. I'm doing fine. The one I wrote was about battling the heroin, not the adultery and all. That's him right there, not me. So I just think it's cool because, some people all the time, you can hear what he's going through, and they're going to interpret it no matter how they feel. And music gives people that escape. And I mean, I've loved music for so long for that reason, but I don't know of one. I mean, I would assume it would be consumed by so many like elitist subgroups so quick that it probably wouldn't last. I think that some of the coolest things to do is to go to like Spotify or Amazon and literally just like, I listened to this album and I enjoyed it. Now that I know I enjoyed it, like let's take High Violet, for example. Now go to Amazon and just start reading the reviews and be like, what? Where'd they get that? Oh, I agree with that. Whoa, what the hell is that? Oh, that person's, you'll see real quick, okay, this is why there's not that many music clubs.
It's just that attitude kind of reminds you of like high school, when people like were like desperately looking for something to define themselves by, and it's like, oh, you're not a real fan if you can't name every member in the band. And right. I even did that like for like when I was in middle school. I was like looking back, there's so much cringe involved because I was just such a snob about music.
Me too.
It's so unnecessary, and you put these barriers on yourself. You're like, oh, I can't like this band because they're too popular. Like, oh, I can't because and then, like, as you get older and, like, you realize nobody actually cares and you're free. You can listen to whatever you want. You can listen to country and metal and you can like both of them, and that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, yeah, I went from something like The National with High Violet, which has just got that, like you said, that somber mood and that underlining, pain, but that's expressed in a and then I went into another amount of a guy that, grew up, the lead singer of Evereve grew up in freaking occupied Germany, like Russian Germany as a kid, standing in line for toilet paper kind of kid. And he's got a lot different way of getting out of his aggression and he does it in such a beautiful way, another beautiful way of just like anguish. And it's just so real. And I just love that outlet's out there. And I mean, and it's always been a huge outlet for me. I mean, I'll still write songs until I can't write anymore just because I have to. I mean, that's like my sanity switch. But, all right. So speaking of sanity switches, and Sirenicide, have you ever been under the surgical knife?
I have not. I've never been in surgery in any way, shape, or form.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Congrats. And
never
my condolences when the first one happens.
No, don't say that. My sister is actually, she's doing her residency. She went to medical school and everything, and she's doing her surgical residency now. So I get to hear a lot of like her stories of like, watching in the ER and like even getting to like help in with surgeries and stuff. And I'm like, ooh, interesting.
Yeah, nice, fun. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Johnny Stitches was my stage name, but it was pulled from having a whole bunch of stitches over my lifetime. I've had 3 valve transplants, so 3 open heart surgeries and a plethora of shunt stents. I mean, I spent more time probably as a kid in the hospital than I did as a student, in classrooms and things like that, which is probably evident in our source material here for the podcast. Or is the source material for our podcast, but done in a lot funner fictional nature. But it's a question I just like to ask anyone that's in and involved with Sirenicide, because it's a total literal sometimes just separation from the world depending on what you have. And I tell people all the time, there's people, that I think Amy just finished writing a mini episode that will be coming out pretty soon called Wisdom That Fades, and it's about a girl getting her wisdom teeth pulled out. And as routine as that sounds as the surgical world, we try to just take it to the max of like what could happen and that kind of thing. And it's a pretty good story. No spoilers on it, but
makes me glad I never got my wisdom teeth.
All right. So these next series of questions are going to be kind of a little bit more rapid fire, and we'll kind of close it out with these. And these are going to be all Sirenicide related for the true person that stuck around for this.
Ooh, the true fans are here now.
Yeah, if you're a true Sirenicide fan, you stuck around to the end of ICE episode 3 or whatever, after they got through talking about all their books and music, and you heard the real stuff about the storyline for the canon. Maybe. No, these are just your interpretations. So, Lena Klein, can you relate?
I mean, like, not to like the murdery bits, but like your mom said, like, there's that anger sometimes, that like everyone's an idiot type of thing,
like, oh God, they said they'd be here at this time. Listen, guy, I don't want to press 3 any more times. I've been on a phone call for like 2 hours already.
Right.
All right. So what is the deal with her in your eyes? Do you think it's Stockholm syndrome? Like she's just dormant, crazy that just got released, or just a better alternative to going to college?
Well, I think it's like you said. I think the surgery changed her as a person. I think if she'd never had that encounter, she probably would have gone to college. She would have met some plain regular guy, gotten a little house in suburbia, had 2.5 kids, and, maybe would have died in the anathema later, but she would have had no idea what was going on.
Right. Oh, blissful ignorance. All right, so you also did Ambrielle, which was our Spectre angel-like girl that was waiting for our character Harper. And in that episode on 211, if memory serves me correctly, basically, spoiler alert for 211, lady comes home, finds this odd little girl in her driveway, goes in, she just like eats like crazy, like she's starving.
Can't relate.
And then later on, I think the next day or later that day, the poor woman is, killed. But then later on, Harper shows up. What do you think, if you were Ambrielle, this little girl did in this house this whole time while she's waiting for this guy to finally show up to ask her questions?
Um, well, if it were me, probably investigating like what's going on in the fridge and pantry situation, checking out the bookshelf, see what's going on there. Probably just a lot of snooping, like all the snooping.
I
If
just
there's a diary, read that.
I just love how you portrayed her too. Like your portrayal of her was so like. I guess because we, on this side, unlike we're not an anthology series, we're a serialized series. So unfortunately, we don't get to have our voice actors like completely reinvent themselves every show. That would be awesome. But it's so it was really cool, and it really showcases your talent of just being able to, I had somebody go, well, who did that girl? I'm like, that's Jessica, also the one that does Lena. No, really? Like, I think that's awesome. I mean,
Oh, that's like the best compliment a voice actor can get when they're like, "That's the same person." Like, and I don't being on No Sleep for so long, I feel like sometimes I kind of get, like typecast into a certain role. I usually play the tomboys because my voice is probably a little lower than like a high peppy voice or anything like that. So I usually play like the tomboys or things like that. So it's kind of nice to be able to like play the kids sometimes or play an old lady. And that's why audiobooks are great because I get to be an old Russian
all of
man
them.
and
Yeah.
I get to be like this like Spanish medium and I get to be a cat and I get to speak Japanese and Spanish and all sorts of fun things.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, again, we covered it earlier, but I just can't imagine how cool that must be to be able to like look at that scope once you get over the initial like fear or planning of how am I going to do that, and then it comes together. That's got to be very rewarding. All right, so would you go through the anathema with Doc and the USG? Would you do it with Sirenicide, the Dark Elite, or just hope some good guys show up, or would you just die?
I'd be waiting for the good guys. I love like I know I'm like in horror and everything, but I'm always rooting for the good guys. I like happy endings. I like when things go well and right and things turn out okay. Like, fight the good fight, good versus evil. And in my mind, good will always win at the end. Like, it may take a while to get there, but maybe it's the optimist in me. I cannot imagine evil being the thing that wins. To me, it's always good. Good always wins.
Well, I don't know who's going to win the battle for the anathema, but I do know that season 3 is going to have some good guys finally showing up to the playfield.
Finally, Johnny. Finally, we get some nice people.
I had to set the storms of darkness before. Oh, speaking of that, spoiler for I think the most recent story we just released last week, which was You, Me, the Gerbil, and the Flea. And somebody commented, I can't remember if it was on Facebook or on iTunes or a review or Patreon somewhere. Someone commented one of the best things. Like, this one was legitimately scary because this actually happened. Like this. You start thinking, how did the Black Death spread that quickly and just wipe out that much of Europe? Oh my God. Dude, this was scary. Like, just listening to it, like the idea. I mean, all it is two people negotiating like this purchase of this horrible disease. But I was like, that is the best compliment I've had in a long time on this show. Is like that somebody just sat back and analyzed how dark we are at this point in the series with little short mini episode like that. Like, is there ever going to be light here? And
one day.
Yeah,
Hold on, hope, guys.
day,
You'll
maybe,
get there.
Maybe.
I've read the scripts. I've edited them. I know.
But I think next week's episode I'm really excited about. It's one that you've edited called Highway Harvest Season, and no spoilers for it because it's not released yet, but it is like this little piece of Sirenicide again, where we haven't really had that since episode 1, since the ambulance man chasing down, Charles Blackwell way back when the series first started. And I was like, man, we need an actual Sirenicide, like somebody causing intentional traffic, stuff, or, somebody going up to accidents and taking advantage of them. I was like, I need to write a story about that because that is the name of the show and it's been a while. So I think people hopefully will be really excited about next week's episode because that'll be that one. And then maybe after that we might start seeing some light come through. I don't know. Might not. But definitely before the end of 2018, someone, it was like, but I get that. There's no good guys, but I mean, Harper, come on. That guy's not a bad dude. A poor dude lost his family and all this kind of things. He's still like, I mean, he drinks a lot, but he's
there's worse things.
Yeah, he's soldiering through and trying to help out and figure out what's going on. And so Matthew's there to help him out. And then, oh no, what happened to Matthew? I guess
what happened to Matthew, Johnny?
I can't tell you that. Everybody keeps emailing me. I can't tell you. Just listen.
You can tell me. I mean, we can pause the recording.
Right, we'll
you can
it.
tell me.
I'll pause it. Stop it real quick. Okay, and all right, guys, y'all just missed it. It was amazing.
Mind blown. It was incredible. You can't wait. It'll be great.
But I will say, after going through this series with us, and my last question, and you're coming to Houston pretty soon for your tour, would you trust a first responder if you needed one while in need in Houston/Morston, Texas?
I might just take my chances on my own.
It's like,
I'll just
go ahead.
I'll just, I'll make a tourniquet. I'll stop the bleeding. I'll drag myself to a hospital. It might be my better choice.
Poor guy. But ma'am, your arm is falling off. I don't care. I'm not getting in that ambulance. This is the Texas Gulf region. I've heard about it.
Have you heard Sirenicide?
Oh no, don't put me in there. So again, we've gone through a lot of questions. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. And, more than anything, just thank you for being a part of what we do. I really appreciate it. The team really appreciates it. And I know the fans have to appreciate what you're doing. You play an amazing character and you help clean up some scripts that people seem to really like. But before you go, I guess remind us one more time where we can find you, because a lot of people don't want to go way back up from when you first came on. Just who is this person again? Yeah.
Now they're like, now I really don't want to know anything about her. She reads. You can always listen to me at the Nosleep podcast. Available on iTunes and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Oh, you got to say Apple Podcasts now, or they'll send you a cease and desist letter.
Oh, yeah? Apple Podcasts.
No, I don't know. I just think that's funny. Everybody's freaking out over that. They don't know what to say right now. Apple, I don't know. Oh, I'm confused.
Is iTunes gone? Is that not a thing anymore?
I don't know. I got an email from them a few months back that said, make sure that in all your promotional material, like our new little cards we're handing out right now, instead of it saying, look us up on iTunes, it says Apple Podcast. There was a lot of paragraphs in the email, and I probably, as a showrunner, should have done my diligence. But I'm just trying to take iTunes out of my vocabulary now. I'm just messing with you, though. Like they're not going to listen to this.
Find us on Apple Podcasts. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JN McEvoy. I also float around a lot if you want to talk on the Nosleep Podcast Book Club. You can find all the books I've narrated, including the ones we talked about today, Unreal City, Dawn's Hill, and coming up soon, The Salvation State.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Audible. So, yeah, I'm around, usually. I mean, we'll see what happens after we go to Houston, but for now, I'm around.
Nice. Well, we're glad you're around. And if I know a lot of our fan base, is in and around Texas, but now it's going by my statistic charts that show our listenership is I can't really say that anymore. So if Jessica's coming near you, go out and see her. If you've never listened to Nosleep and you're listening to this, go listen to Nosleep. It's a long rabbit hole journey. You will enjoy it. I promise. I had a friend also named Jessica.
How dare you? There can only be one.
Right? She did some guest vocals for us a long time ago on a demo for our band, and she's doing really well. Moved out to LA, living the dream of pursuing being a struggling musician and getting your name out. So plug for Vanilla Sugar. But she messaged me the other night. She's like, "Oh my God, I was listening to like season 9 of the Nosleep podcast, and they brought up Sirenicide, and I had to like do a double take." But it's like, I knew you had shared some stuff that you had been doing some podcasting, but links on the internet, it's hard to organize all that. And It's so funny because she started with No Sleep. I think she said like the first episode 1, season 1, and worked her way forward. So she's
Oh wow, true fan.
so she, well, then she's like, then I found out they were having a tour, and then the tour was over, and it's like, oh man, you don't think about that when you don't listen to it like as a current event, like, oh, I missed that. Oh, I missed that too. But
it's coming again.
I know. That's what I told her. I was like, oh, but they're coming back. So. I thought that was really cool because, I mean, it's a person that the No Sleep podcast helped connect, two old friends from the Houston music scene that hadn't talked in a while. So, just one more living proof that there's just plenty of awesome Jessicas floating around the world. So come out and see one live or put on some headphones and listen to one. So that's been Jessica here on our intensive care episode. Hopefully you guys are liking these. If you're not, obviously, if you got this far, I'm pretty sure you're enjoying them. But they can always be skipped. Just to touch base again, like I said at the top, the Tuesday release schedule is active and live right now for 2018. So we have switched from Thursday release to Tuesday releases now. And so you get those couple extra work days, hopefully. It seems that last week was really good. It seemed to go over really well. Our downloads were up like amazingly. So that's really cool for being post-holiday. And the Support is Crucial campaign is really good. If you're listening to this podcast because it's the first thing on the feed and you had some little 4x4 inch cards stuck on your window, that is part of our campaign. We are, sending out some cards right now that got the description of the show. And if that's what got you here, please shoot us a message on Facebook or something like that so we can friend you and add you to all the wonderings that are happening on our pages and our communities. And we want to thank everybody again for tuning in. And we've got an awesome new mini episode headed your way next week. So we'll see you guys when we see you. And we will have something special coming in March. Might be a new season. And we'll have more details to come on that very soon. Again, my name is Johnny. Jessica, thank you so much again for being here with us. And
thank you so much for having me.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you later, Scarbones. All elements of Sirenicide are copyright 2018 by Atrium Dynamics unless otherwise stated. Any duplication of this production without the secured written consent of Atrium Dynamics is strictly prohibited. Please visit Sirenicide.com for more details.